We're talking about the decline of our playing fields now. We're joined in the studio by Alex Welsh, who is CEO of the London Playing Field Foundation. And since 1990, London has lost 41% of its grass cricket wickets, 20% of its natural turf football pitches. And the London Playing Fields believe there should be no loss of pitches in London. If they are lost to development, they should be replaced. And in their charter for playing fields, it calls on the Greater London Authority, local authority and sporting bodies to adopt a 12-point call to action that provides long-term protection for the capital's playing fields. First of all, Alex, good morning.
Good morning.
Just before I get onto the situation, particularly in London, it's not just a London problem, this, is it? It's all over the country. You're a Sunderland fan. You come from the northeast. I'll forgive you the Sunderland bit, but we have seen it everywhere, haven't we?
Well, from my bedroom window as a boy, I could see the landscape, the skyline of Newcastle, and on that skyline I saw St James's Park. And so as a kid I'd go there to St James's one week, Roker the next, then go back to the field to practice, inspired by what I'd seen. Those playing fields no longer exist.
Yeah, as we said, they've built houses on them. There's always excuses for why the upkeep from the council, etc., etc. What are the specifics about London that are particularly bothering you?
Well, London has 16% of England's population, but 8% of its playing fields. And if you dig deeper, it's exacerbated by the fact that there is an uneven distribution of playing fields. So you go somewhere like Camden, 1990 there were 20 football pitches. Now there's one. You go to nearby Islington, there are 4 fields, but one of them's the Emirates. So unless you're Declan Rice or Lewis Skelly, you're not getting on that one. So we have a real problem in London where land values are higher. The density of population puts a real pressure on more homes. But what we want the government to think is, how do you want to be remembered in 50, 100 years' time? Do you want to be remembered like those visionaries that set up London Playing Fields Foundation because they were worried about the loss of fields and they knew how sport could improve lives? How do they want to be remembered? That's not a good way. When you go into a town, you go into Hyde Park or somewhere like that, you go, this is a wonderful park. You don't go, what a wonderful block of flats over there. Isn't that brilliant?
Alex, there are two very obvious concerns on this. First is for kids who just want to play, for their physical and mental health, how important that is. We have a nationwide issue with obesity, certainly in certain areas of the country. But the second element is, where are the England players of the future going to start out? Now, you and I have been around the amazing Sir Peter May Centre with Harry Kane, who started out there not just football. He was quite a decent bat on the sort of the neighbouring pitch, which you still have, don't you? You still run the Sir Peter May. Where are the Harry Kanes of the future going to come from?
Well, we like to say that playing fields are where sport begins, but for the gifted few like Harry, they're where careers begin, and they all start somewhere. And I suppose if you look at last week, there was an international week, and all the 4 home countries are playing. Every one of those players will have a spot in their heart for a playing field where it all began for them, where they fueled their love for the game and developed their super strengths in football. And I suppose if you extend the logic, without playing fields, we'd have no TalkSPORT either, because we'd have no professional football to talk about. There is this golden thread that goes from playing fields to the elite end of the game, whether it's cricket, football or rugby. The
golden thread could be cut. We'd particularly need to talk to you. Obviously, we could talk to you every week because it's a perennial issue. But it's particularly pertinent at the moment because UK Sport or Sport England have been removed from the government, and they were very significant supporters of pitches within.
Sport England had 2 main roles. One was the distribution, or is the distribution of lottery funding, which has transformed the landscape. And the other was this protection role around playing field, in that they were a statutory consultee for any planning applications relating to a playing field. And what they do, they ensure that the National Planning Policy Framework, specifically paragraph 104, is adhered to, which is about how playing fields should be protected. So when they're removed, it's going to be easier for developers because that layer of protection is gone. And for London Playing Fields Foundation, it means that we're going to be even more under more pressure to advise people, because when local groups are worried about the loss of a playing field, who do they call in the Ghostbuster moment? They call us. And what we have is a fields at risk register which looks at that. But one of the problems we've got, and it was one that faced our founders 135 years ago, it's very difficult to protect what you don't know is there. So there's not been this continuously developed, updated audit of what we've got. So that's why sometimes we have a line in the sand, and we're able to see what the loss is.
I've played on famous Hackney Marshes. I'm sure Henry has, and probably yourself, Alex.
Yes.
And I remember when I went there for the first time, I thought, wow, playing on Hackney Marshes, fantastic. It's not particularly brilliantly maintained, but there's a lot of pictures on there. And I looked around and I thought, how long are they going to be able to keep this place going of this size? And I can imagine government looking at thinking, you know what, we could knock 5 pitches off here and still have a big area.
Well, one of the reasons why councils who are 85% of the providers of pitches, they're under pressure. They're strapped for cash. They need cash quickly. Playing fields cost money. So selling a playing field could give them a large capital receipt. It could help them reach their challenging housing targets. And in one fell swoop, it removes any maintenance or management liability. For us as a charity, we can't rely on council tax to support us. So we have to raise money at gala dinners, at the Oval, at the Savoy, quiz at the Oval, golf day at Woburn to try and raise money. And so for the councils, it's an easy way of them, getting this money and not having to pay for them.
Alex, when we talk about the sort of the number of grass pitches going, some of them are being replaced by 3G pitches, aren't they? I mean, the Football Foundation does incredible work across the country.
The Football Foundation was formed in 2000, and that, like the lottery, has transformed the landscape. However, if you put 2 or 3 full-size 3G pitches, what happens to cricket? There's a cannibalisation of the space for cricket, for softball, for rounders, for athletics tracks. And sometimes what I worry about is you have a big site with 3 full-size artificial pitches, then the remaining grass pitches become redundant, and then the council goes, that might be a nice place for housing. And once they're lost, they're not coming back.
Did you worry that the latest debate about the government almost implying that they might bypass local councils in order to build housing on areas which previously the local authority might have opposed it? Do you worry that too could have an effect on playing fields? Absolutely,
and because they just go for the path of least resistance, and they're not really looking at previously developed sites where you could put houses. It should be the absolute last resort thinking of a playing field, but it isn't, because they've got this massive expanse of maybe 30, 40 acres. It's an easy fix.
What would you say to a politician listening in?
I would say it's a false economy. We did a piece of research on one of our fields in Walthamstow a few years ago over a 12-month period, and we found that the minimum savings to the public purse of all the activities that took place was 4.8 million, mostly in reducing crime, antisocial behaviour, improving health and well-being. So it seems illogical to me and short-sighted to lose a field where we've got an obesity crisis, where inactivity will kill 1 in 6 of us, where knife crime is rife, where poor mental health is getting worse. Playing fields can be a magic pill for that. It can get the community more active. It can persuade our young people to join sports teams rather than gangs. Being out there in the fresh air can do wonders for your mental health.
Henry mentioned Harry Kane there. Do you find that you get good support from ex-players in your campaign?
I think Harry Kane is a wonderful human being. I knew him as a little boy when he was at Arsenal, because I coached the goalkeepers there, and I tried to persuade him to be a goalkeeper, and then the nation should give me a debt of gratitude. I failed miserably. But the thing about Harry was he was a good goalie, but one of the reasons why he's such a brilliant finisher is because he knows what the goalkeeper doesn't like. He's the goalkeeper's worst nightmare. Shoots early, bends it round people, as we saw last week, Albania. But aside from his supreme football talent, he's never forgotten where it all began, and he's really good, and the family have been so supportive and helped us develop projects which are trying to get football to more kids, especially girls.
Alex Welsh, CEO of London Playing Field Foundation, we wish you all the best in your campaign. Very important we keep those fields.
It is. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Alex.